The narrator's voice is strong, direct, and laced with a complex mix of rage, hurt, pride, and clarity. It feels very personal, yet never melodramatic. It's the kind of controlled fury that keeps the reader riveted. 2. Cinematic pacing. You pace the revelations brilliantly. From the off-kilter opening, Celine standing at the front, to the bombshell confrontation, "How long have you been sleeping with my wife?" To the triumphant legal reversal, it unfolds like a screenplay, beat by beat. 3. Technical believability. The contingency clause, the strategic rollout, the foresight in building escape plans into the company structure, all feel plausible and deeply satisfying. It's revenge, but rooted in realism. That's rare. 4. Themes, loyalty versus ambition. Marriage as a corporate merger gone toxic. Founders being erased from their own legacy. The quiet power of preparation. They all come through naturally, without ever needing to be spelled out. What could be polished? 1. Paragraph structure. Readability. As a block of text, this is massive and dense. Breaking it into smaller, punchier paragraphs, especially around emotional turns or new beats, would help with clarity and reader stamina. Tip: anywhere your character has a shift in emotion or intention, hit enter. Let the story breathe. 2. Celine's motive. While the betrayal is deeply felt, Celine's motivations are still a bit thin. What pushed her from co-founder to coup plotter? Was it just ambition, resentment, jealousy? Or did she believe Royce was holding the company back? A single paragraph of her rationale, shown, not told, would make her less of a villain and more of a worthy adversary. 3. Adrian's character. Adrian feels a bit like a foil, smug, pretty, and undeserving. That works emotionally, but consider giving him one trait that makes him less of a placeholder villain. Maybe he actually has a smart idea. Maybe he genuinely thinks Royce is outdated. That tension would enrich the confrontation. 4. Minor repetition lines. Like, "This is the conversation," or "I built this echo with power," but show up a few times. Repeating mantras can be effective, but spacing them or varying the phrasing slightly might keep them sharper. Final thought. This is more than a revenge fantasy. It's a study in control, how to lose it, how to reclaim it, and how to make silence louder than a scream. With some structural tightening and maybe a bit more nuance to the antagonists, you could easily pitch this as a pilot episode for a streaming drama, or a short story in a business-lit mag, or even a one-man stage monologue for a festival. At 22:18, I sat down. Not at the head of the table, but beside it. A quiet gesture. I wasn't here to reclaim my crown. I was here to remind them who built the throne. It didn't take long. The moment I walked out of that boardroom, the collapse began. Not loud or cinematic. No shattering glass or raised voices. Just the slow, precise rhythm of a controlled demolition. Each lie crumbling under the weight of its own arrogance. By the time I reached my office, the once unshakable walls of the company Celine thought she had inherited were already groaning from the inside. The hallway buzzed, phones out, whispers snapping like sparks from a downed wire. Word was spreading fast. Royce Mathers wasn't just still standing. He was standing, taller than ever. The myth unraveled quickly. Celine's clean transition, Adrienne's visionary rise, thread by thread it came apart. I pushed open the door to Adrienne's office, my old office. His coat was still slung on the chair. His notebook, open, filled with half-baked thoughts and careless doodles. An empty espresso cup sat nearby, still warm. He had left in a hurry. Good. I stepped behind the desk, not to reclaim it, but to retrieve what was still mine. Files, original notes, client histories, confidential documents. Adrienne hadn't touched them. He didn't even know what to look for. There was a knock. I turned. Mara stood in the doorway, tablet in hand, her expression taut. "You'll want to see this," she said. We walked to the legal wing. Junior attorneys already surrounded printers and glowing screens. It felt like a war room mid-trial. Mara handed me a folder. "These are the contracts Selene and Adrienne executed over the last 6 weeks. Most were signed without full board approval." I flipped through page after page. Reckless promotions, fund reallocations, altered agreements, all without oversight. All under Selene's name. Mara pointed to one document. "This memo shows Selene approving Adrienne's onboarding. But with your clause and no unanimous board consent, she breached the foundational agreement." "A legal violation?" I asked. "We've already enforced it," Mara replied. "Russell called an emergency vote. All executive changes from the past 60 days have been frozen. It passed unanimously. Your digital access is restored. Adrienne's and Selene's have been revoked." I nodded. "Initiate a full audit. Every transaction since the first attempt at removal." Mara hesitated. "That's scorched earth." "She lit the fire," I said. "We're just watching it burn." My phone buzzed. "Jonah from HR. Adrienne's trying to access payroll. He's locked out. Selene's in his office. She's not taking it well." I replied simply, "Don't interfere. Let her sit with it." I walked back to the executive wing. The hall had quieted, thick with tension. People peeked from cubicles as I passed. I didn't knock. I opened the door. Selene stood by the window, arms crossed, phone pressed to her ear. She turned sharply. "He's here now," she said into the phone. "I'll call you back." She hung up. Her expression was taut with rage. "You planned this." "I planned for disaster," I said calmly. "I never thought you'd be the one to bring it. You embarrassed me." "No," I replied, sharp. "You embarrassed yourself. You weaponized our marriage, our company, our history, for a man who can't spell EBITDA." She flinched. "Adrienne believed in the future." "No," I cut in. "Adrienne believed in you, or the version of you that promised him shortcuts. You gave him the keys to something he couldn't even start." She gripped the desk as if to ground herself. "We can fix this." I looked at her. The same woman I'd built an empire beside. The same woman who once curled up beside me with notebooks full of brand ideas. Somewhere between then and now, our ambition had fractured. "We're past fixing," I said quietly. She stepped forward. "Royce, I was scared. You were drifting. You cared more about the company than us. I was the company, and you knew that. You waited until I was focused, trusting. Then you gutted the one thing I didn't guard well enough. Us." Her eyes glistened, but I didn't care. I'd seen her smiling beside Adrienne. I'd read her signature. I'd felt the cold silence when I asked to talk. She had made her choice. I placed an envelope on the desk. "What's that?" "Everything you'll need. The clause. Time-stamped emails. Your signature on Adrienne's appointment. And my withdrawal from the marital estate." "You're filing?" she whispered. "No," I said. "I already did. Signed. Separated, sent. You'll hear from your attorney." She stared. "You're ending it?" "No," I replied. "You ended it when you stood in that room and acted like I was a stranger." I walked out before she could speak again. Back in my office, I packed, not because I was leaving, but to clear the weight of what had been. A photo with the original team, a client gift from our first $1 million contract, my father's pin, the one I used to sign the founding paperwork. Then my phone buzzed again. "Mara, media inquiry just came through. They heard about the meeting." Of course they did. Scandal sells, especially when betrayal wears a press release like a crown. My reply? No comment. Let the facts speak. Celine thought charm and secrets would save her, but today the only thing collapsing in real time was her illusion of control. And this time, I wasn't going to catch her. We were out. I knew the fall wouldn't stop. Not now. Not with Celine gripping the reins like a woman trying to steer a train already off the tracks. Then came the SEC notice. Not a full investigation, just an inquiry. But it was enough. Enough to spook investors, send department heads into chaos, and make Adrienne's name corporate poison. And just like that, people started scrubbing their LinkedIn tags, deleting photos, rewriting history. I said nothing publicly. Privately, I was building. Not with vengeance, not with spectacle, with precision. Kenneth Lang called next. One of the few board members who never bowed to Celine's charm or Adrienne's delusions. He invited me to lunch at his private club. Wood-paneled walls, ribeye, legacy talk. "You don't need revenge," he said. "You need rebirth." "I don't know if I want to build again," I admitted. "Then build different, cleaner, smaller, better." He slid a folder across the table. Seed funding, office space, a green tech startup he'd been nurturing. He wanted me to lead it. That night, I stood by my apartment window. The skyline hadn't changed, but I had. All those late nights, missed birthdays, and hollow reassurances, gone. Celine didn't want love. She wanted power, and she got it. Briefly. Until the house of cards collapsed under its own fraud. And me? I wasn't there to save it. I didn't tell anyone I was meeting Kenneth again, not even Julia, who'd quietly become my inside source at the imploding firm. This time, there was no steakhouse, just a raw space in the arts district, between a jazz bar and a bakery that sold $6 cookies. With edible gold. "She's losing them," Kenneth said. "The ones staying are just drifting, not loyal, not anymore." "You could reclaim it," he offered. "Call back the old team. Take the wheel." "No," I said. "Let her keep the building, the logo, the name." "I'm done patching what she broke." He nodded and slid another folder over. "Financials, branding mock-ups, a lean, sustainable development firm. Clean, profitable, no chaos." "I've been saving this," he said. "Needed the right builder. I took it with one condition, full autonomy. My people, no carryovers." He smiled. "Even better." That afternoon, I walked out with nothing but a laptop and the scent of espresso on my coat, and something I hadn't felt in months, clarity. While Celine scrambled to plug leaks, I quietly assembled a team. No announcements, no interviews, just 6 texts. People who stayed late and still smiled Monday morning. 3 replied instantly. The others followed within the week. We called it Reclaim. Not a salvage, a reset, not revenge, purpose. Celine went silent. The firm's account posted some bland message about restructuring. The comments told the truth. Clients. Frustrated former employees venting, competitors circling. Adrienne? Last I heard, he was job hunting under a fake LinkedIn name. One afternoon, as I reviewed our first client proposal, Kenneth walked in with a smirk. "You've been holding back," he said. "I've seen enough knives," I replied. "Now I carve clean lines." "This is your rebirth class," he said. The name stuck. That night, I opened a folder on my laptop. I titled it Legacy, not to put my name on buildings, but the kind that creates opportunity and trust. I wrote 4 values for Reclaim: build with truth, lead with fire, no fluff, no pretense. And then, around 3:46 p.m., came the email. Subject, please from Celent Hersko. Com to Roy, Memithercy Reclaim Firm. Come a plea, a request to talk, to rebuild. Not as what we were, but something new. I stared at it. But there was no ache, no nostalgia. Just calm. Instead of replying, I attached a PDF. A 40-second transcript of her own voice from a meeting she thought deleted. He doesn't matter. He's just in the way. No anger, just fact. I sent it without comment. 15 minutes passed, no reply. That was the reply. Later that week, I walked the halls of Reclaim. Issa was sketching logos. Julia's whiteboard overflowed with timelines. Kenneth reviewed our proposal, one we'd built in 4 days with 4 people. Goodbye email? He asked. She wanted help, I said, and forgiveness. Give her either? Neither. Rain tapped the glass. I remembered the early days, spreadsheet dreams and takeout dinners. Now she was a podcast cautionary tale. And me? I had no suits, no marble, just purpose. Issa poked her head in. The old company's site is gone. Just a landing page now. They're closing the book, I said. Do you ever miss it? I miss who I thought we were, not what we became. She nodded. When you built that company, did you know it would end like this? No. But part of me always felt something was off. I thought I could fix it before it broke. She left, and I sat there in the quiet, realizing not all endings are loud. Some come with a single email and a door clicking shut. Weeks later, our atrium filled with morning light. No gold logos, no perfume politics, just plants, sunlight, laughter, and honest work. I walked over to Leanne, our new intern. He looked up. Mr. Mathers. Royce. He smiled nervously and showed me his flow diagrams. Why start over? He asked. After everything? I looked around. Because betrayal clears the page, I said. And when it does, you either mourn the pieces or draw something new. This time, I said, I'm building for peace, for people like you who believe there's a better way. He nodded, and I watched him go. Later, Julia mentioned Celine had left the city. Adrienne had disappeared. It's done then, she said. I nodded. I'm free. And we got to work. No theatrics, no rescue fantasies, just people doing what they loved well. And as sunlight streaked across our concrete floors, I stood in the atrium, watching a team I trusted breathe life into a vision no scandal could touch. Someone asked me again, why the name Reclaim? I smiled. Because the best blueprints, I said, come from what you survive. Then I rolled up my sleeves and kept building.